Welcome to the December Commission on Aging meeting. Thanks for everybody for coming. We are currently one short of our quorum, but that gives me a chance if we get one more for the minutes. It's becoming, unfortunately, a monthly tradition for a moment of silence, but I'd like to do one for Mark Thorne today. Mark, although was never on the Commission on Aging, ironically, I talked to him 2 weeks ago about possibly filling a slot, right?
So did I.
And Mark is the kind of guy who said, I'll think about it, but let me check with the DTC and see if they have somebody lined up. Most of us would say yeah or no, whatever. Mark was not that kind of guy. Mark actually checked with David Bain. Turned out they've got somebody lined up for us, okay? And I said, oh, please consider us again next time. You'd be perfect for the commission. Sadly, he had a stroke on Sunday and passed away on Monday. But as far as active in the community and doing things for seniors, it's hard to imagine somebody more active than Mark. And quite frankly, his surviving spouse, Barbara's also been amazing. So I'd ask that if you're a believer, keep them in your prayers. And if you're not, keep them in your thoughts. And do what you can to support Barbara through this tough time. So if I could have a moment of silence for that great man, Mark Thorne. Thank you. We'll skip over as discussed the discussion of November minutes since we're missing quorum by one, and we'll turn it over to Beth for the Mather Center report.
Well, it would be a long report, but today is a busy day. So I do actually have the January newsletter so that everybody can look through it, but some highlights, we are having a presentation by the Bicentennial Committee, because we're gonna have some events at the senior center as well, and we might even be selling some merchandise to make it easier for folks. We were elected again from Fairfield U to do the Matter of Balance program, which is that 8-week program to help folks prevent falling. I don't know what they were doing in the midst of ice, but to prevent falling.
It doesn't cover ice in your driveway.
Yeah, exactly. The space is limited to that, so we're trying to get and we filled it up each time, and that's why we've been invited back to do the program again, because each time we've gone a little, they always let us go a little longer. The tax assistant program is coming back again. We're gonna have 2 assigned folks that'll come to the center beginning Wednesday, January 29th from 9 to 1. If we get more walk-ins, they'll assign another person, but we're gonna keep the appointments for them to make it easier. And we are on the website this time, so I think that's gonna be a good synergy. The census is gonna come and do another presentation as well. We have the Hospital for Special Surgery coming to do a joint replacement seminar, which is gonna be excellent. This doctor leads the joint replacement department in the Hospital for Special Surgery, and it seems like there's so many people that are having something replaced. I can't believe how many people are on their 4th joint, but it's amazing what they're doing now. There's a lot of good entertainment, lots going on. We also did a 2020 survey. I have these for everybody to take too. The front side is program, the back is about the food program. So even if folks aren't lunching with us, they might wanna tell us why or what they would like for us to do, because we'd like to attract more people to eat more than just on these big special occasions that we're having. And also we do take very seriously the program aspect of it. There's a lot of things that have happened on our survey, because we do the program survey every year, that we've actually looked into getting speakers and teachers and classes that have been suggested to us. So we do take these really seriously. So the lion's share of that will be, you will all have it in front of you. And we just hope that everybody will come and take the newsletter. And the center's been very busy. We are very fortunate today. We have 150 people coming, and the weather gods have shined on us, and it wasn't yesterday. In 10 years, we've never had a snow date, and yesterday was the first time we were thinking, how did we never have a snow date? We haven't, so.
150 today?
150 today, yeah, so, it's great.
Awesome. Questions for Beth? Hearing none, thanks so much. Ally, Human Services report.
Okay, good morning.
Morning.
So Medicare open enrollment ended on December 7th. I won't complain about it. As we said, we had a challenging year. we actually helped more people than we have in the past, just by a couple, but 69 seniors. I didn't tally up yet how much we saved, because I always like to find out that number, but one woman in particular saved over $5,000 for 1 year.
Nice.
Yeah, so, amazing. So one of her drugs is no longer on the formulary. If she hadn't reviewed it, she would have been stuck. So that's pretty crazy. Again, we're in full swing. If you want to come see in our office and get in the spirit, it looks like the North Pole because there's presents everywhere. We had 52 seniors adopted this year. Many of you in the room have helped. Thank you. And we have 51 families. So there's a lot of it's organized chaos in our office. So.
It looks good.
And the community. There's so many organizations, people that are donating. It's just incredible. So we're grateful. And Operation Fuel. I don't know if I've ever talked about that in here, but that's another program that we participate in. Maybe I have. They started their winter program on December 2nd. What that is they pay up to $500 once a year, and the income level is a little bit higher. So some of our people who are not eligible for energy assistance, the income level is about $10,000 higher, and there's no asset limit. So a lot of our seniors in particular are eligible for that if they have assets like IRAs and whatnot. So luckily, they had to cut our funding last season, but this season we're back up to the full $5,000. So we've already spent about $2,000 of it. So it's another program people can call our office if they're interested. And then of course energy assistance is ongoing. And one thing I thought of when you were talking about Mark Thorne that I didn't mention in here is if you see outside of Palmer's, the Salvation Army bell ringers, those are all of the money that gets collected, 90% of it comes directly to Darien Human Services and 10% goes to Salvation Army. And Mark Theron was always the coordinator for the senior men's group. This was the first year he didn't do it, but it was funny, both Saturday and Sunday, with the different men when I collect the kettle at the end of the day, we were talking about him, because like this was his project, and he would be out there with Barbara every year. I remember 2 years ago we were talking about this weekend. It was snowing, and he still was out. The two of them were still out there. Their glasses were fogged up. They're covered in snow, and they're bringing them. So we will miss him, and we appreciate all this time. So that's about it.
Thank you. Any questions for Ally? Going to old business, let's go back to this question of the Medicare card.
Now, I actually saw, and Al, you probably have seen this now, when people have gotten their assignment for what their Medicare increase is gonna be. There is a page devoted to no longer taking the old Medicare card. So the hospital had preempted that. That's not supposed to happen until January, what was it, 15th or something like that. So, what we're gonna do is we're gonna actually print something like this to have out there and put it right as an insert rather than part of the newsletter. So, I mean, if you want these two, I'll make copies for you as well. To warn, because I think a lot of people don't know that it's happened, but I read the whole thing, and of course, my dear mother-in-law, said, I didn't get the Snoop card, which she did, I had already taken the other one and tossed it for her. So but it was nice because you can actually see
That's really
in big,
Right.
the card, so it's worth us color copying them.
Yes.
And I'll give
Spending a little
you,
bit of extra money.
exactly, I'm gonna give Ally them to have in Human Services as well. But I'm also gonna offer, if anybody wants to come in, I'm sure you would do it too. Just to make sure if they're afraid
Yes.
that they're cutting up the wrong card, will help.
Can you?
Has there ever, I'm sorry, has there ever been anything in the Darien Times about that?
You beat me to what I was about to say.
I had never seen it in a publication until,
No.
this would be your social security
Right.
award.
Yeah,
And I'd never seen it in print, because I went on the website and I did research, and I wrote in, can a hospital refuse, or, nothing came up, and then I took her mail in on Saturday, and that, I'd opened it up, cause she was kind of nervous about I didn't get these cards, and I said, here it is finally in black and white. It was in print, but in the social security, which I think people might miss it.
Well, you mean the thing that's perforated, the 1099?
And when you open it up, there's a whole paragraph about
Oh, just a paragraph. I thought you meant they had the flyer.
No,
Oh,
it's
well.
just a paragraph, and it says, attention, starting, I think it's January 15th, Medicare cards that have the number on will no longer be accepted at any hospital or doctor's office.
When she comes to deliver the papers on Thursday, you should give her this.
I will, if you would like me to. I'll
Here's,
get it.
I got a better idea.
She comes to the senior center, Peter, on Thursdays.
Yes.
So,
Can you PDF that to me as a color PDF?
Sure.
Okay,
Yeah.
and then what I can do is I can do up something, press release, whatever, I've got to think about it a little bit more, letter to the editor, not sure how I'd play it.
Right.
And send this to each of the publications, Darien Patch, Darien Times, et cetera, et cetera. Because that color thing is key. In other words, if we can get that color picture in the paper, I'm not sure they'll do it in color, but nevertheless, that's gonna be, I completely agree with you, we need to get that out. And to be blunt, at least I can try through email to get that to the press, especially with a 1/15/20 deadline. This is like critical stuff. And so if you can PDF that to me as a color PDF, I'll then turn that around in something to get it over to the press so that people are aware of this. It's such a critical thing.
It's
If
just,
you want, Joe, Diane Barson in our office is our media person.
Ah.
If it would be helpful,
Yeah.
she's so great about it.
Yes.
If you wanted to do whatever it is, send it to me, Diane will get it out there and she gets,
Brilliant,
Yeah.
let's do that. That's a great idea. So
do you
I'll,
want it? Oh, okay.
so we'll do a combo. Beth, if you'll PDF that color thing to me, I'll then turn around and do something, okay? Send it to Ally, copying back
get it
Beth.
out there.
You guys make sure, so 2 eyes, 4 eyes, 6 eyes are better than 2.
Right, right.
We wanna make sure that it's accurate, God
Right.
forbid, okay? And that in fact, it's exactly what we wanna say, and you guys obviously let me know any edits. Then we can turn it over to your folks and get that
Get it out
into the
there.
press. That's awesome, great, good tag team.
Yeah.
I got my flu shot at Walgreens this week, and they asked to see the new card. So it's not just hospital and doctors
It's always
visits.
gonna be,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah,
everything.
and I mentioned to them, I said, it'd sure be helpful if you showed something. And the pharmacist said, well, that's interesting, maybe we can do something.
Yeah, it's the weirdest rollout, don't you think, of
Yeah,
information?
yeah.
I mean, if I had read it in that paragraph,
Right, and at this time of year, they get so much stuff, or they
Yeah.
were for Medicare, that even if they mailed something out, I think it's gonna get lost in the shuffle. I'm
Absolutely.
sure all of you who are over 65, you're inundated with mail.
Sure.
So that's the question then, let's be clear. That there would be, the next paper, obviously, we could get this in, would be Wednesday the 24th. They're not publishing on Thursday.
Right,
Or Wednesday, they'll be I'm not sure if they'll publish on Thursday the 26th, or if they'll publish on January 2nd. Do we try to target this when people wake up from Christmas? In other words, or do we do it
they
ASAP?
might be able to do it
No,
twice, they might be able to run it a second time, do you know what I mean?
Okay,
If
well,
I
we
think
got,
more than-
okay, the earlier we get in, fine, agreed.
Yeah.
I'm just simply saying, as I look at the Christmas, I mean, I don't know what you guys you open up the newspaper this time of the year, it's like,
Right.
you know, because everybody's so crazy, so,
Well, we can ask them if they can run it, 2 weeks in a row.
that'd be great. Okay.
it's good that the pharmacy took the suggestion too, because most of the pharmacies are very good about that. They probably don't realize people aren't getting notified.
Well, and it's not for prescription meds, it's for, because I was getting a flu shot, so.
Yeah.
Right.
It's a
Yeah.
service
Right.
as opposed to medication.
Well,
And-
the application.
Fascinating. Really wacky, okay.
Mm.
So, great, so we will get this in as soon as we can, and hopefully they can run it multiple times and make sure that folks get this information, because it's just so critical. Okay, cool.
Good.
Other old business, we see that our wonderful Royal, as they're calling it now, it continues to go up.
It's huge,
It's been amazing, yeah, it is.
it's so big.
And so I'm thrilled that wasn't quite as obvious from the plans, because you've gotten more opposition if in
Yes.
fact, I think if people actually focused, so they didn't, good. But we want as many units as we can get reasonably, and I think they're still doing it reasonably, and it keeps going up. My goal is to get Joe Warren back here sometime in early 2020 to let us know.
Because I think that's when they're gonna start opening the wait
Yes,
list.
exactly. So my goal will either be the January or February meeting to get him if I can, if he's available. And we'll go from there. Good
The
stuff.
seniors that are returning are very encouraged seeing, because it looks like it's actually moving along, I mean,
Oh,
it's
yeah.
here,
Right,
So they're very eager to get back, all of them. We still meet with them monthly.
great,
Only a few of them come, also in the winter time, but still.
absolutely.
Did you say July 2020
That's what they said, yeah,
was the
that's their goal.
hopeful opening?
Which would be a good time of year for seniors to move in the summer,
Yes, yes.
before fall. months.
Yeah, no kidding. They certainly would not want to move today. For
No.
those watching us on TV 79, the sleet storm happened yesterday, and all of our roads and sidewalks are covered with ice as we meet today. So that's why this focus on slipping and ice is seemingly more in our focus today than other days. Other old business, Peter?
I do have a couple of
Great.
things. Last Thursday, 60 of us AARP volunteers focused on legislative issues met. We meet annually, and our speaker and he stayed for lunch, was Attorney General Tom.
Hmm.
And it really was interesting, and I want to talk about a couple of things. One of the things that ARP did is that we kind of recapped what worked and what didn't work this year. We know what worked. You know, and again, we're going to be pushing again for this as the next year. But for example, increased eligibility for Alzheimer's respite. It did not go through. It did not go through. There are a whole bunch of things. Protecting workers from age discrimination did not pass. So there are going to be pushes back on the agenda. What I want to say about and what I have here is a flyer that AARP has put out. These are going to be their advocacy issues for 2020. So I'll give you copies of this, so we can each have this.
Make sure our secretary gets this for purposes of the minutes, for sure.
But what we've got to keep in mind, a couple of things. It's a short legislative session. So it starts on the 3rd of February and ends on May the 6th. So it's a very short session. Committee bills only, so individuals will not be able to put individual bills through, so all bills that will be addressed will come out of committees. So again, it's really imperative that we reach out to any of the representatives that we see or we know on the issues that are important to us, okay? Now, I want to tell you about William Tong. William Tong spoke about the 44-state coalition in antitrust law against the pharmaceuticals, against the generic drug manufacturers. And it was really fascinating. It was really fascinating. And you can follow this certainly in the media, in the public. But one of the things, a couple of things he said that struck me was interesting. What the attorneys general, when they got together, the first bunch of them got together, is they bought a DEA software program where the DEA was using to see telephone patterns on drug deals in Mexico and the United States. And the attorneys bought this, and they did it with these 16 drug companies, and they had 3 million telephone messages. So they took the 3 million telephone messages, and they looked at who was calling who. And they narrowed it down, and to make a long story short, what they found was, of the 16 drug companies, there were people talking to each other, and they got the following emails, emailing each other the day before there were price increases. And that was why price increases for drugs came simultaneously across the board. And there are people working in these companies whose job it is to coordinate the deals, to make sure that, hey, I'm gonna raise my prices tomorrow. What are you thinking? The people matching other generic drugs. And 90% of prescriptions are generic drugs today. 90% of prescriptions are generic drugs today.
Take on the
And so
antitrust
this-
case. That's amazing.
Yeah, exactly, it's definitely, and as William said, it's criminal, because it's somebody, he said somebody's going to work every morning. He said they're getting their kids, putting them in the car, going to work. He said turning on their computer, and they're going to look at a price, and they're going to contact the competing manufacturer and say, what's going on today, raising any prices. That's criminal.
Yeah, sure is.
And that person will get a cup of coffee and then come back to work and do the same thing, and then go to lunch and come back and do the same thing. That's criminal. That's absolutely criminal. So they're pushing ahead on this. And he said that he is also going to be very focused on drug prices, and AARP is also going to push ahead on this prescription drug issues. The second thing he said, which I thought was really important, was he said that as a legislator, when he was in the House of Reps, when he was in the Reps, he said he paid a lot of attention to the pressure that individuals put on him, and that AARP did. He said, we used to be afraid of the red shirts, some of us, on some of the issues. But he said, if you don't think the phone call, the visit to the Capitol, the email, the letter to the editor matters, he said, you're dead wrong. He said, we don't hear from so many people. We listen to the people that we do hear from. So this was an attorney general talking to us from the heart, and as I said, it was terrific. And so it kind of gave us, certainly the AARP volunteers, a good feeling that what we're doing is important. So I wanted to share that with the commission, with the with our viewers.
Good stuff. Anything else, Pete?
No, that'll do it.
Cool. Gina's not here from At Home in Darien. Do you have any update? What's going on there?
Well, yeah,
Maybe-
retrospect, right, we had our annual meeting.
Mm-hmm.
And we would really encourage, if you haven't looked at it, to go on Vimeo or Channel 79 and look at it. Gina had a terrific idea where 5 people, a board member, one of Gina's staff, a volunteer, a driver, and an actual member, talked about the 10 years of the program. And we had a dialogue which I moderated, and it was just fantastic to hear the people in the program talk about what it takes, what they've gotten out of it, and what we need to do to move ahead.
Good
So,
stuff.
as I said, we were disappointed, again, it was a foul weather day for one thing. We were disappointed by the turnout. But if you get time to watch
On the
TV, it's
internet.
on there, I'd encourage you, and it's like our commission meetings, it's less than an hour, Joe, I think it was 53 minutes.
Woohoo! There you go. That's we gotta like that. Exactly.
It was Beth's idea to have that panel.
Nice. Good stuff. Yeah, what's funny is I finished up a history of our church, First Congregational Church, and one of the things that came up was At Home in Darien, because the Women's Association of our church, in part, I mean, there were various things that moved together to make it, but one of the pieces of that was Wynn Lydecker and others in the Women's Association deciding we really need to find a handyman list to be able to make it available to seniors, to be able to find ways that they can, and now we have an amazing list from At Home in Darien for those seniors who need to have an electrician or a plumber or somebody else who is trusted and will not, quite frankly, rip them off. And so that's one of the huge benefits of At Home in Darien, as well as what was formerly known as Gallivant, and other things. But it's just fascinating to me to see how many fingers were in the pie at Home in Darien to bring us to this point.
Well, just to underscore your point, at that meeting, Wynn brought your new young,
Oh, yes.
youth minister.
Fantastic.
And he was sitting there and taking notes, and afterwards he came up and said how interested he was. It really underscores one thing, and that is we need to constantly promote this and let people know. People do not know. We can't take it for granted.
Absolutely.
We cannot take it for granted.
And those who have interacted with the program, and quite frankly as well with Beth in the Mather Center, are absolutely amazed by what Darien actually offers. And that's what we've got to get out there to continue to have the funding to make sure that these programs, do as well as they do, because we've got an amazing trifecta here between Hallie, Beth, and Gina and all of their crew, okay,
Right.
to service our people here in town. So it's great.
Which reminds me of one thing. I had a conversation 2 weeks ago. I met with Stephen Fernandez for the first time. And Stephen runs the commission on the aging at the state level. And we were chatting, and he said to me that he might be interested in coming to town and spending a morning visiting with social services, our selectmen, senior center, commission.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was an idle threat or if he was serious about it, but I said to him, you know what? You want to do it, I'll be glad to try to act as a catalyst.
I'd love to have him come speak to us. That'd be great. So
Yeah.
if he's serious about
So
that,
we'll see.
put him in touch, and we can pick a date for him to come and speak to us about what they're doing at the state level. That'd be great. Great. And then he could take the tour.
Exactly.
That would be pretty awesome. Good stuff. Thank you. Any questions for Peter? Any other old business? Oh, go ahead.
This is new business.
Sure.
Just want to let everybody know, yesterday we were notified by our bank that my husband's checking account was overdrawn. And it turns out that we had mailed a check to Eversource for under $55. They never received it. Someone had gotten it, written a 9 in front of the numerical value, and had cashed it.
Oh my God.
My husband's at the bank right as we speak, and they're going to be talking to the police. But apparently this is some kind of new scam. So if you're writing checks, we write the checks, we put them directly into the mailbox. And this was to Eversource. So just be aware, and hopefully the bank will get this all straightened out, but
And I have a client who called me about a similar scam. And so as a result, it is out there. That the problem is that people are intercepting the mail and have somehow figured out, and that's the real question. If the check is made payable to Eversource, how in the world are they able to cash it?
Yeah.
That's the question, right? But somehow they're doing it.
I think it's through an ATM,
Okay.
because it's, as you said, first of all, it's made out to Eversource. Second of all, legally, I believe, and I don't know if they've changed the law, but I'd be surprised, the legal amount is the written amount, the amount that you spell out.
Correct.
That is that's the legal amount, not the numerical.
Mhm. But still, if a bank is reading it, you've got the problem, as you're shown. So,
Yeah.
But I think the ATM makes a lot of sense. It has gotta be something like that where,
Or, bank by phone where you take a picture of the check. But, as we pointed out, if you're using an ATM, you've gotta have a bank card.
right,
So there's gotta be a paper trail.
right.
And even if you're doing it by phone, somebody's account, somewhere.
Yeah, yeah, let's hope they can track me.
And if it was
bad.
actually a clerk, then whoever that teller was, they're gonna be probably looking for a new job because
Mm.
Eversource, I mean,
Yeah, of all places, you think your check's pretty safe going in the mail is to an Eversource paying your electric bill.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Okay, thank you for letting us know that. Other new business? Hearing none, we will move our discussion of the November minutes into January, and we'll do both November, December. Actually, I will take back, I'm gonna reverse back, sorry folks, back to old business real quick. As you see from our lack of a quorum today, our loss of our two sadly due to Ron Heinbaugh's death, and to one of our members going on to the RTM, we have both a Democrat and a Republican vacancy. The Democrats, I understand, are moving forward. Do you know anything about the Republicans?
Two possible.
Okay, good. So if the Republicans can move, we'd love to have somebody sooner rather than later so that we don't postpone the November and December minutes into February. Because at this time of the year, it's just challenging to get the quorum on an icy day like this, and especially when we're down two people for two reasons. So in any event, thank you. Any other new business? Hearing none, can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Thank you, second. Thank you. All in favor?
All right.
Thanks, everybody. See you in